the idea was to do like this cryptid series. So I looked up the definition of cryptid just because, to be honest, I like kind of had an idea what it was. I knew it was like Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster, but I wanted to know like what the line was. Like what makes something a cryptid and what's not a cryptid. And there is actually like there's several cryptid blogs that all say the same thing. A cryptid has to be a creature that is within the realm of possibility. So the line is things like Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, um, the Chupacabra. Those things are like they're biologically feasible, and it's a creature that may or may not exist. Whereas something like a werewolf or a vampire or a ghost or a witch, those are folklore.
So we're focusing on states. We're going to go in alphabetical order.
Yeah.
So both of mine are more folklore, but they popped up when I searched cryptid.
Yep. Now, I have one that's cryptid and one that's kind of folklore.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to argue that my folklore one is actually a cryptid. But I don't know, though. I don't know if I completely agree with that distinction.
Yeah, I feel like it's like when you... I feel it's more like a very specific tale that's pertinent to your town.
Yeah.
Like a folklore. Like, I think folklore and cryptids can be hand in hand.
Yes. All cryptids are folklore, but not all folklore is a cryptid. Is kind of what I got from that distinction. But, as I've talked about before on this podcast, my belief in ghosts and where that stands, it's like I don't believe in ghosts, but I do believe that there might be something we don't understand, and that makes their existence feasible.
Yeah, ghosts.
So with that being said, like maybe with some of these things that are folklore, you're like, oh yeah, that's not feasible. Vampires aren't feasible.
Shout out to Bigfoot, he's real.
Yeah, or werewolves aren't feasible. Like, I don't know. Maybe there's something that we don't. Maybe there was a disease that we don't have
there's
anymore.
Maybe there's a werecat.
Maybe.
But
I'm not saying like for sure those other things could be cryptids, but what I am saying is the whole cryptid definition doesn't really fall on this. It doesn't really take into account that there's things we also don't understand. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important to kind of take into account when you're speculating on things, is that our limits of understanding aren't the end. We don't understand everything because we're people.
Anyways, we're here to talk about spooky shit in Alabama.
Yeah. All right, so the first one we're doing is Alabama. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
You go first this time. I'm excited to hear about yours.
So the first one I did it's called the knot deer. And it's
the knot deer. Is it not a deer?
That's exactly what it is.
It's not a deer.
It's something that looks like a deer,
but it's not.
Isn't. Yeah,
so it's a skinwalker.
Yes. Now, it's very interesting. Let me consult my notes.
Yes, consult your notes. That feeble brain of yours can't remember.
No.
I say as my notes are already opened up on my computer, ready to go.
I handwrite mine.
All right, the not deer. That's definitely not a deer.
Yeah, simply a deer that's not a deer. It's been seen all over Appalachia, but there's also a concentration of sightings in Alabama. It's often seen with crooked or inverted legs.
Ew.
And it's also been seen to be feeding on carcasses of animals rather than grazing. And then another feature that has been reported is that it has eyes in the front as opposed to the side. Which that's actually an interesting detail that kind of plays into some of the other things as well, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But people claim that like legends of the knot deer came out only a few years ago. I guess it was popular on TikTok, and people were claiming that there was a lot of like Native American legends that talk about it. There are none. And actually the closest Native American legend or mythology that they have to the knot deer, like you said earlier, skinwalkers.
Yeah.
And that's a Navajo story. Yeah, the skinwalkers are very creepy. Yeah.
The skinwalker is something that changes from pet to like human. Sorry, there's a fly fucking around.
Yeah, I saw it landed right on the middle of your forehead.
Yeah. It's really hard to focus when a fly is tickling the shit out of you. But anyways, like skinwalkers, my understanding is like a shapeshifter.
Yeah.
But it's creepy because like Watson could be a skinwalker
Yeah.
and, like, just transform into a middle-aged dude sitting on our couch watching Netflix when we're in bed.
Yeah, that'd be weird. That would be so creepy.
I mean, that's a very loose understanding of it, but we're focused on Alabama today.
Yeah.
We'll touch skinwalkers another time.
Okay, fine. I wanted to talk more about it, but
well, you can if it's pertinent.
So, yes, it is pertinent because this is where I was going with it. I read for skinwalkers specifically, they're usually Native American shamans that delved into like the dark arts. So they were like shamans that use their spiritual abilities for evil. And apparently, in order to obtain that shape-shifting magic, the actual rituals are very evil. Like you have to kill somebody you love and like do all kind. Apparently, I don't know. This is like what I've read, and they're probably like
everything's
like,
allegedly when you're talking folklore.
So apparently, the creatures that these skinwalkers turn into, there's two big forms that are often reported. There's one that's like a wolf, and then there's another one that's like a deer type creature as well.
Mm-hmm.
And however, the deer type creature meets the description of what this knot deer is. I think a lot of the folklore of the knot deer literally is just poached from the mythology of the skinwalkers.
Yeah. What if the knot deer is just a deformed cannibalistic deer or rabid deer?
That's actually that's the scientific explanation of it. So deer have all kinds of wild diseases. Mm-hmm. One in specific is it's called chronic wasting disease, and it's basically mad cow disease for deers. So it makes them have all of this crazy behavior, and it also makes them look mangy and scary. They also have another crazy deer disease is deer warts, where they get these giant growths and warts all over their skin, and it makes them look terrifying.
Ew.
So there's all kinds of diseases out there that could kind of produce this look and behavior, and that could be what people are seeing. But the one thing I thought was interesting, though, is when they were talking about the eyes to the front, as well as reports of them seeing it feasting on carcasses. Animals that are herbivores have their eyes on the side, because they need to keep an eye out for predators, whereas carnivorous animals have them on the front. So when they say, oh, its eyes are looking forward, it's on the front, that actually plays into and connects it to the reports of it eating carcasses, because it suggests that it's carnivorous.
That's fascinating.
Which I thought that was kind of a cool like biology connection, but that's what I got for the knot deer.
Not deer. Not a deer.
Yep, not a deer. I agree. It's a very lame name.
So is that just Alabama in general, or was it localized?
So it's localized to the Appalachian Mountains.
Oh, okay.
But there is a lot of reports centralized in Alabama, and it's a popular one down there.
Okay.
All right. Do you want to do the next one?
Yeah. Let's. Mine, I guess, are more folklore. But like when I was searching for cryptids and whatnot.
I think we should just make the series about folklore, because I like opening it up to things like this.
I like folklore because cryptids can be folklore, like you said. It doesn't have to be.
Cryptids are folklore, but not all. No. What did I say earlier?
Oh, sorry. You said folklore isn't always a cryptid, but cryptids can be folklore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a folklore series, and in case because we've been rambling on, this is the first episode. Sorry, Alabama. We're gonna go in alphabetical order, state to state, and just do these at our own leisure. I don't think we're gonna have a strict schedule with this or anything.
Yeah, just because they're fun.
They're just fun. It's stuff we like talking about. And the key thing with folklore too is know that like we might only be covering one version of a story, because there are so many versions of one simple story, right? Mm-hmm. It's just like last night we were watching Band of Brothers, where there's a rumor about, and it's like, no, I heard it was 50 men. No, I heard it was 20. No, and like how things just get changed.
Oh yeah, with
Spears, over time. But
if you don't know what we're talking about, Spears, there was a rumor that he killed a bunch of prisoners, and at the beginning it suggested that it was 5, and he was simply just there, and then the rumor turned into he killed 30 men in cold blood, which he didn't. But that's that's the example of the evolution of like rumors and folklore.
But folklore, there's different versions and different stories, and I'll just dive into my sweet and short one called Huggin' Molly.
All right.
Huggin' Molly is kind of a legend. Mothers who wanted their children to hurry home at dark would tell their children of this legend. Huggin' Molly. Kind of sounds nice. Sounds like I'm just gonna give you a hug.
Mm.
And that's pretty much exactly what it is. The origins of it are unclear, but the story is unique to Abbeville, Alabama, and it's been said to pass down for many generations. A phantom woman or witch-like woman would appear to children who weren't home by dark. All dressed in black, Huggin' Molly, as they called her, would hug these children tightly and scream in their ears. Although Huggin' Molly is said to have never harmed a child, the most damage that has been done would be a ringing left behind in the children's ears after the piercing scream. She's described as a woman who stood as tall as 7 feet, engulfed in dark clothing and a wide-brimmed hat. There's multiple versions of how Huggin' Molly came to be. One states that Molly was the ghost of a woman who lost her infant and has dealt with the pain by hugging local children. Said she's like kind of like the hug and the scream is like to like protect you, but like to like be like get home. So parents would tell their kids like don't be out after dark or Huggin' Molly's gonna get you. And some kids, like I was reading a couple interviews, some kids said like their father legitimately believed Huggin' Molly existed because him and a friend were out past dark, and he like someone in black jumped out and hugged him and then screamed. Yeah.
That's creepy as hell.
So like people have like accounts of, this Huggin' Molly being a real thing, but she's said to be harmless. Another story states that Molly was a professor at the Southwest Alabama Agricultural School and that she's trying to keep her students safe by keeping them off the streets at night. So, that's a simple one. I thought it was kind of cool. Like, who thinks of, like,
Yeah.
a ghost that comes and hugs you?
Yeah, that is funny.
But yeah,
Cool.
it's how parents would keep their kids coming home before dark in Abbeville, Alabama. I'm going to start that rumor here, too.
Yeah, that's what you gotta do.
It's great. I love stories like that to get your kids to do what you want them to do.
Yep. So my next one is a funny one, I thought.
Yes,
I actually remember.
I'm actually excited.
I remember when this YouTube video came out. So this next one is the Mobile Leprechaun. And in Crichton, Alabama, in 2006, or like right around St. Patrick's Day, there were reports that some residents saw a leprechaun in a tree.
Because they're real.
In like a very urban area. And the YouTube video is pretty funny because like there's all these people being like, yeah, we all saw a leprechaun. We saw a leprechaun. And this was one of YouTube's like first viral videos. This is 2006, got millions of views, so much that NBC did a news report on this. And when you watch the news report, it's so funny because they have an artist's depiction of what the leprechaun looks like. So I gotta show you it because it's hilarious.
Yeah, describe it.
It's like on notepad paper, like yellow notepad paper, and it's just like a stick figure drawing with like a little like leprechaun hat on it. Yeah, so it's literally just like a stick figure drawing smiley face with a hat. But
doesn't even have a beard.
No, it doesn't have a beard.
Leprechauns are supposed to have beards.
But yeah, they were just asking all the people, like, did you see a leprechaun? And most of the people were like, it was probably a crackhead. It was just like
a crackhead.
But I don't know, I like it. But now apparently in that area, they have like a lot of festivals and stuff, or like little town community events where they have like leprechaun themed stuff.
Yeah,
and it's kind of
great.
become like a fun like community thing, which I like stuff like that. I think it's cool. But I was thinking about how we were talking earlier in the beginning. I was like, I don't know if this is necessarily a cryptid. This is, I guess, more folklore because it's a leprechaun.
Yeah.
I think the leprechaun meets everything within the realm of biological possibility.
Yeah, I would say it is a cryptid.
Yeah, I would say it is too. Can you be a little person? Can you be of Irish descent with red hair? Can you have a gambling addiction? Yes.
Can you have a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow?
From your gambling addiction? Hell yeah. Yep. That's what I'm saying. So it meets it's within the realm of possibility. So leprechaun, definitely a cryptid.
Definitely exists.
Yep. Has to. I remember when this video came out. Like, I remember watching it on YouTube and being like, dude, leprechauns? I was 11.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh my god, leprechauns are real. And it was the realest shit I had ever seen.
Oh my god, even with that stick figure drawing.
Yeah. I was like, dude, Mom, leprechauns are real. They found one.
YouTube is real. Everything I see on the internet is real.
Yeah.
Epstein didn't kill himself. No, that's a funny one. I like that.
Yeah,
and I like your relation that you remember out like your age and going to your mom and being like, Mom, leprechauns are real. They just found one.
Well, right around this time too, this was when Finding Bigfoot was real. That was also the realest shit I had ever seen. I was like, they're gonna find Bigfoot. They're televising it. They're finally putting pen to paper on this thing.
Dude, you at that age were more excited about the existence of leprechauns than the United States has been excited about the government finally admitting there's alien life.
Oh, for sure.
Like, everyone was like, eh. I think because at this point, everyone already knew. Like, everyone was already like, yeah, we know the government's hiding signs of extraterrestrial life.
People accepted that there's aliens and the government's hiding it in, like, the 60s. Ever since Roswell.
Yeah.
No one has even considered leprechauns.
Because it was basically a, let's throw them a bone, because, like, probably to distract us from something else. Everyone's like, nah, that backfired on them so quick, because everyone's just like, yeah, so, like.
Yeah. No one's even considered the existence of leprechauns. That's why it was so mind-blowing. Changed my life from that day on. All right.
Are you ready to take a journey?
Oh, for sure.
I'm probably going to say all these city names and counties wrong, but Gadsden is a city in Etowah County, Alabama, located on the Coosa River. About 56 miles northeast of Birmingham and 90 miles southwest of Chattanooga. But in Gadsden, there is a dark, morbid tale about a witch living in a shack along the wooded area of Hinds Road who sold her soul to the devil, and her evil soul continues to frighten the people of Gadsden, known as the Witch of Hinds Road. According to the legend, if you walk along the wooded Hinds Road area, you'll likely encounter a witch who lives in a tiny shack in the back of the woods. It has been told that she was an old mystic, and she went by the name of Torbit, and that she sold her soul to the devil. Around the turn of the 19th century was her evil reign. For 20 years, she terrorized the city of Gadsden, and mainly their children. Those foolish enough to venture up to Hinds in search of her, it was said she would kill them, drink, and bathe in their blood to keep herself young, while she would decorate the outside of her shack with their bones. And I'll pause right there, because that is something that I've seen in a lot of, like, witch stories, like bathing and drinking in youth, like, blood to keep yourself young.
Yeah.
That's so dark. Maybe there's some truth to it.
There's a conspiracy theory right now that the Clintons and all of these, like, high elite people that, you can look it up, it's a pretty, like, in-depth one, that they kill children and for their blood, and then they do blood transfusions to get the children's blood, and that's what keeps them, like, young. And that's why they can go into politics so late, and why they're able to run the country at 86.
That is a wild conspiracy.
Insane conspiracy, but I think it's hilarious. That's like stuff like that. It's like,
it's probably a crackhead.
Yep.
Make that story. But for years, children would go missing, and for years, adults were too afraid to venture up to Hinds to call out the witch. That was until around 1939, when the mayor at the time had enough of her evil ways and sent a mob up to get her. What this mob saw is said to have turned their hair white and drained the blood from their faces. They first found a pond completely filled with blood and many floating bodies, presumably children. When they got their bearings, they ventured further up the winding dirt road till they came upon a cave. One person went in and let out a spine-shattering scream and immediately ran back out to the mob. And he never uttered a word of what he saw, and not because he didn't want to, because something in that cave terrified him to the point he lost his ability to speak for the rest of his life. Yeah, it wasn't even momentary. It was for the rest of his life. And no one else after that was brave enough to enter the cave. Even though many at that point had turned back from the mob, a smaller band of the mob continued on to the cabin where they found the witch at her front door. And of course she was this young, beautiful woman described with long black hair, green eyes, naked and covered in blood. And then they asked her, "Are you the witch they call Torbit?" And she goes, "It is I." And without hesitation, they threw their flames at her and her cabin and watched her burn along with her cabin. There are versions of this story that include that the witch had a 3-year-old son who also burned alongside her. And today, many still claim that the woods are still haunted by the witch's child as he plays evil tricks on unsuspecting visitors. Another version also depicts the witch using her sorcery to conjure up this huge black hound to guard her property, a hellhound, as a pet. And you can also find a lot of versions of the story if you search the hellhound of Hinds Road, because it's got its own thing. But it's said to be conjured up by this witch. And it's said that the hellhound wasn't there the day she burned, and they believe that the witch's spirit remains with the dog after her death. And then there's still stories in the area today. Today there's more claims of supernatural happenings. Supposedly you can still see her ghostly cabin in the woods when the moon is full and the light shines on the vacant lot or abandoned lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then some have seen her dancing, still young and beautiful, covered in blood, laughing. And casting spells on any child brave enough to come up to Hinds Wood. The pond is now filled with water, with a thick algae layer, and it has many stories of mysterious orbs of light, dancing around it, and that's said to be the spirit of the children who were never put to rest. It's said that sometimes the witch can be seen at the edge of the pond, dipping her hands into it and pouring it over herself like it's the blood again. The witch's cave still is said to have a foul stench coming from it, but very few have gone very far into it, and those who go further never tell what they see. But there was one exception. Supposedly a young woman saw a still living dog with rotting skin, said to be the hellhound. And then today it's also said that young devil worshippers use the area as their stomping ground, and supposedly it will kill or beat you up if you're there after dark. And that is pretty much the biggest legend I saw, or folklore I saw in for Alabama.
Nice.
I'm sure there's many we're missing.
Oh, for
the
sure.
The South has a lot of cool folklore.
And as we do these, obviously, we're not going to get every folklore thing in every cryptid
or even
in every
state. Version, because this version could be very different in comparison to what other versions of the story say. There is it was said that she used to kidnap the children from the town, tie their hands and feet together, and throw them in the pond as sacrifices. Was another slight difference. It's crazy because there's it makes me wonder too, it's folklore, but in 1939 when that mob was sent up there, was this woman actually a witch, or did people just think she was, accuse her of stuff and think she was a witch?
I mean, I think every witch was an accused witch.
Yeah.
I don't think they were actually witches.
You don't think witches are real?
I don't.
People practice witchcraft today.
Oh yeah.
Harry Potter.
That doesn't make them a witch in the literal sense, though.
I think it's crazy how many different versions of witches there are too.
Oh
Because you
yeah.
got your Halloween witch with the like wart nose and like what you see in the Wizard of Oz of the evil wicked witch of the West. And then you've got like your like New Orleans voodoo witches, and then you've got like white witches, dark witches. You got Harry Potter and his mangly British crew. But that's Alabama for us.